In the year 2145, the United Earth Science Academy stood as the tallest building in the city, a shimmering tower of glass and metal that reflected the sun like a giant crystal. Inside, the most brilliant minds of humanity gathered to solve problems that had baffled humans for decades. Every day they worked on equations, energy formulas, and space travel designs that promised to carry humanity to new worlds. But despite all their knowledge, there was one problem that no one could solve. It was called the quantum energy equation, and it was supposed to reveal the next source of limitless energy for interstellar travel. Many had tried to solve it, from young prodigies to the oldest professors, but the equation resisted every approach. It seemed impossible. Not far from the academy, in the quieter part of the city, lived a man named Malik. He worked as a janitor at the academy. Every morning he wore his simple uniform and walked through the tall corridors with a mop in one hand and a bucket in the other. He knew the academy well, its shining floors, its glowing machines, and its walls filled with charts and formulas. But what he loved most was watching the students and professors at work. He admired their minds, even if he did not have the same education. Malik lived with his daughter Nia. She was 12 years old, full of energy and curiosity. Unlike other children her age, Nia was fascinated by patterns, numbers, and puzzles. She could spend hours drawing shapes, counting sequences, or imagining new ways to solve problems. Her father often found her scribbling strange symbols on paper or on the floor with chalk. He never told her to stop. He believed every child had a spark inside them, waiting for the right moment to shine. One morning, Malik arrived at the academy as usual. He pushed the door open and smelled the familiar scent of polished metal and warm floors. Professors were walking quickly, talking in low voices, carrying tablets and data scrolls. Some looked tired, rubbing their foreheads, whispering about the unsolvable equation. Malik's ears caught a few words. One professor said, "We have tried every method, every theory. Nothing works." Another muttered, "It may be beyond human understanding." Malik smiled quietly to himself and shook his head. He did not fully understand the equation, but he knew humans were capable of amazing things. He thought of Nia and wondered how she would look at this problem. Children often see the world differently, he remembered, without fear or rules. Maybe that was the key to seeing what others could not. After finishing his morning rounds, Malik returned home to Nia. She was waiting for him, sitting on the floor with a small pile of books around her. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Daddy, I tried a new pattern today," she said. She held up a paper filled with shapes and numbers. "Look, the numbers fit together like a puzzle. I think I can make them dance," Malik laughed softly. "That's wonderful, Nia. Keep going. One day you will find a puzzle that even the best minds cannot solve." Nia's eyes widened. "Really? Even the smartest people in the academy?" "Yes," Malik said. "Sometimes the smartest people follow rules so much that they cannot see what is hidden in front of them. Children can see it because they play with ideas, not because they must get them right." Nia thought about this all day. She could not stop imagining the quantum energy equation. She had heard the word energy many times, and in her mind energy meant movement, light, and life. She imagined the equation as a giant puzzle, made of glowing shapes floating in space, each shape connected to another in ways that no one had yet understood. She closed her eyes and tried to see the connections. The next day, Nia went to the academy with her father. Malik had been cleaning the large lecture hall when he noticed Nia peeking around the corner. She was small and most people would not notice her, but she had a curious gaze that seemed to take in everything. Malik smiled. "Be careful, Nia," he said. "These halls are for serious work," Nia nodded. She stepped carefully, her eyes scanning the walls covered in formulas. She felt excitement. She wanted to touch the chalkboards, look at the equations, but she did not dare. Instead, she drew the shapes she remembered from her imagination on a small notebook. Each line and number made her heart beat faster. Inside the lecture hall, professors were gathered around a large digital board. Numbers moved like rivers of light, shifting and changing as they tried to solve the quantum energy equation. A few students watched quietly, hoping to learn, but none could offer a solution. One professor sighed. "We are wasting our time. Perhaps it is truly impossible." Nia's eyes sparkled. She did not feel fear. She did not feel worry. She only felt curiosity. She imagined what the solution could look like. Maybe it was not a single number. Maybe it was a pattern, a connection, a dance between numbers and shapes. She began to draw, connecting dots, drawing triangles, squares, and circles. She imagined energy flowing through the shapes like water through rivers. Her father noticed her intensity. "What are you doing, Nia?" he asked softly. "I'm trying to see the solution," she said. "I think it is hiding in the shapes." Malik knelt beside her and looked at the notebook. The drawings were messy but full of imagination. "You are thinking differently," he said. "That is important. Never forget that the way you see the world matters more than what others tell you is impossible." Days passed. Nia returned to the academy with her father after school. Every evening she watched the professors work from a distance, listening to their discussions, learning their language in her own way. She did not try to interrupt them, but she absorbed everything. Each lecture, each formula, each failed attempt added to her understanding. One evening, as the city lights reflected on the glass walls of the academy, Nia had an idea. She looked at the shapes she had drawn and noticed a small connection she had missed before. It was a tiny shift, almost invisible, but it changed the entire pattern. She felt a rush of excitement. This could be the key. She wanted to test it immediately, but the academy labs were closed at night. She would have to wait. The next morning, Malik prepared for his rounds and Nia followed him quietly. When no one was watching, she slipped into a small, unused classroom connected to the lecture hall. Using a piece of chalk and the clean floor, she began to draw her pattern. Numbers, shapes, lines, and connections formed a strange design, glowing faintly under the room lights. She imagined energy flowing through the design, moving from one shape to another. Hours passed, but Nia did not notice. Her mind was focused entirely on the pattern, on the movement, on the possibility that she could understand what no one else could. Malik checked on her silently, proud and amazed. "You are very brave, Nia," he whispered. "Keep believing in yourself." By late afternoon, Nia stepped back and looked at her work. She could feel it in her mind. The pattern made sense. It was not the kind of solution a professor might write on a board. It was different, alive, and connected. She smiled, feeling a new kind of confidence. She knew this was only the beginning. Little did Nia know her small, quiet observation would soon shake the academy. Her approach was simple but brilliant, something the world's greatest minds had overlooked. Humanity had always valued knowledge and power, but sometimes the freshest insight comes from the most unexpected places. That evening, Malik and Nia walked home together. The city lights shimmered, and the distant stars above reminded them of the worlds waiting beyond Earth. Malik held Nia's hand and thought about how human curiosity, courage, and imagination could achieve the impossible. Nia looked up at the sky and felt a thrill of possibility. One day she would change the course of humanity. But for now she only dreamed, imagined, and played with numbers and patterns, unaware of the greatness that awaited her. And so, in the heart of the city, in a quiet home filled with love and curiosity, a 12-year-old girl began the journey to solve the equation that no professor could crack. Her story, full of wonder and courage, was about to begin. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the city streets, reflecting off glass towers and casting long shadows on the ground. Nia woke early, even before the alarm rang. Her mind was still buzzing from the pattern she had drawn on the floor of the academy the night before. She could not stop thinking about it. She felt that if she just looked closer, if she explored the shapes and numbers more carefully, she might see the secret hidden inside. Malik was in the kitchen making breakfast when Nia ran down the stairs. "Good morning, Nia," he said. "You look ready for something important." "I am, Daddy," Nia said, her eyes shining. "I want to try something new today. I think I can understand the pattern better if I experiment with it." Malik smiled. "You are brave to try. Remember, the world is full of people who say something is impossible, but you do not have to listen to them. Your mind is yours and your curiosity is your gift." Nia ate quickly and then grabbed her notebook and pencils. She wanted to try different ways of connecting the shapes, adding numbers, and imagining the energy flowing between them. She had no instructions, no guide, no teacher. She only had her imagination and her belief that there was a solution waiting to be discovered. At the academy, Malik began his morning rounds. Nia followed quietly, her notebook clutched tightly in her hands. She watched the professors as they worked. They were serious, speaking in technical language, moving data around on glowing screens. Some of them were frustrated, rubbing their eyes after failed attempts to solve the quantum energy equation. Nia could feel their tension in the air like electricity, but she did not feel afraid. She felt excitement. In the quiet corner of a lecture hall, Nia opened her notebook and began to draw. She tried to copy some of the equations she had glimpsed from a distance, but she did not fully understand them. That did not matter. She turned them into shapes and lines, triangles, squares, and circles, connecting them in ways no one else had thought of. She imagined energy flowing along these paths, moving from one shape to another like water through a stream. Hours passed and Nia barely noticed. She was lost in her world of numbers and patterns. Every new combination of lines and shapes brought her closer to understanding. She experimented freely, breaking the rules that adults often followed without question. She drew patterns upside down, sideways, and in circles. She imagined what the numbers would do if they could move and dance. Malik watched from a distance. He did not interfere, but he could not help feeling amazed. "She sees the world differently," he whispered to himself. "That is the reason children can sometimes find what adults cannot." In the middle of her drawing, Nia paused. She looked at the pattern and frowned. Something felt missing. The shapes seemed close to forming a path, but the energy flow was not complete. She thought about the professors, how they had tried to solve the equation with complex calculations, computers, and machines. They had ignored imagination, simplicity, and perspective. Nia realized that the solution might not be hidden in complicated numbers. Perhaps it was hidden in understanding how everything connected in a simple way. She closed her eyes and imagined the pattern in her mind. She rotated the shapes, combined them, and watched how energy moved through her imagination. Suddenly, she noticed a connection she had missed before. It was a small shift, almost invisible, but it made all the lines flow together naturally. She quickly grabbed a pencil and sketched it on paper. The pattern looked alive, almost like it could move on its own. Nia smiled. Her heart beat fast with excitement. She wanted to test it further. The academy had a small unused lab near the lecture hall, and it was mostly empty in the afternoon. Nia waited until her father was nearby and then slipped inside. She cleared a space on the table and began to draw the pattern in larger form. Numbers, shapes, and lines covered the surface. She moved them around, erased some, and tried again. Each change brought new insight. She imagined the energy moving like streams connecting mountains and valleys. Hours turned into afternoon. Sunlight shifted through the tall windows and Nia did not notice. She was too focused on understanding the rhythm of the numbers and shapes. The pattern was changing and evolving under her hands. Her imagination was alive, guiding her where logic alone could not. Malik checked on her from the doorway. "Nia, it is almost time to go," he said softly. "I cannot stop, Daddy," Nia replied. "I feel like I'm close. I can see the path forming and it is beautiful." Malik nodded. He understood. Sometimes the most important discoveries could not be rushed. He waited quietly, giving her space to explore her ideas. As the afternoon passed, Nia began to notice something remarkable. The pattern she had drawn was starting to resemble a map, not just of numbers and shapes, but of energy flow itself. The connections made sense in a way the professor's equations had not. She could see how energy would move through the pattern if it were real, how it would connect points that had seemed separate before. Her mind raced with possibilities. She thought about the stars above and the worlds humanity wanted to reach. The quantum energy equation was supposed to reveal a new energy source, one that could power ships beyond Earth. If her pattern was correct, it could be the answer. She felt both excitement and fear. She was only 12 and no one had ever expected a child to understand such a problem. But she believed in her idea. Nia spent the next days testing her pattern in every way she could imagine. She used pencils, chalk, and even small pieces of wire to model the connections. She imagined energy moving like light beams bouncing from one shape to another. She compared it to water flowing through rivers, noticing how some paths were blocked and others open. Each observation brought new understanding. The professors continued their work in the main hall, unaware of Nia's experiments. They debated theories, checked formulas, and used the most advanced machines. Some of them were frustrated. "We are missing something," one said. Perhaps the answer does not exist. Nia, on the other hand, did not feel frustrated. She felt curiosity and joy. She was learning through play and observation, not pressure or competition. Her mind was free to explore possibilities that adults could not see, because they were focused on rules, methods, and results. She understood something important. Solving a problem was not always about knowledge alone. It was about perspective, imagination, and the courage to try. One evening, after another long day at the academy, Nia walked home with her father. The city lights shimmered, and the sky above was dotted with stars. Malik noticed her thoughtful expression. "What are you thinking, Nia?" he asked. "I am thinking about the pattern," she said. "I feel like it is alive. If I can understand it completely, it might be the answer the professors are looking for." Malik smiled. "You are very close, Nia. Remember, the mind of a child can see what adults cannot because it is not afraid to imagine. Keep believing in yourself." That night, Nia could not sleep. She lay in bed thinking about the shapes and numbers, imagining energy flowing through them. She closed her eyes and rotated the patterns in her mind. Suddenly, a small spark of understanding came to her. She saw a connection she had not noticed before. A line that completed the flow of energy across the pattern. Her heart beat fast. This was it. This was the insight she had been waiting for. She jumped out of bed, grabbed a notebook, and began drawing. The lines moved quickly under her pencil, forming a complete map of shapes and energy flow. Each connection made sense. Each number had a place. For the first time, Nia felt that the pattern was not just a dream, but a real solution. Malik heard her moving and came to check on her. "Nia, it is late," he said. "I cannot stop, Daddy," she said. "I think I understand it now." "I can see the answer." Malik looked at her with pride. "Then follow your mind, Nia. This is your discovery." "You are brave and smart. Remember, it is your curiosity and courage that brought you here." Nia smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. She worked through the night, drawing and connecting, imagining and testing until the first rays of morning light filled her room. She knew that she had found something extraordinary. The pattern, the shapes, and the flow of energy were coming together in a way no one had expected. For a 12-year-old girl who loved puzzles, this was the beginning of a journey that could change everything. Nia's curiosity had led her to see what the most brilliant minds had missed. The quantum energy equation, the problem that no professor could solve, was slowly revealing its secret. And in the quiet of the city, in a small home filled with love and encouragement, a child's imagination was about to unlock a future that humanity had only dreamed of. The morning sun spilled across the city streets, reflecting off the academy's tall glass walls. Inside, the professors were already hard at work, their minds focused on the quantum energy equation. Computers hummed and numbers scrolled across glowing screens. Yet despite all their knowledge, the solution remained out of reach. Frustration filled the halls. Some professors whispered to each other, questioning if the problem could ever be solved. Others stared blankly at their screens, feeling the weight of failure. Meanwhile, Nia sat quietly in a corner of the academy, her notebook open on the small table in front of her. Her eyes were bright with excitement. For days she had been observing, imagining, and experimenting. Now she felt she was close to understanding the secret that had eluded the greatest minds on Earth. She traced lines, numbers, and shapes on the paper, connecting them in ways that felt natural to her. Every movement of her pencil brought clarity, as if the pattern itself were guiding her. Malik moved through the halls with his cleaning tools, keeping an eye on his daughter. He smiled quietly. He knew that Nia was doing something extraordinary, though the professors would not see it yet. He believed in her as he always had. Children often saw the world differently, without fear or limitations, and Nia's mind was full of curiosity and imagination. Nia paused and leaned back in her chair. She studied the pattern she had drawn. Something was changing in her understanding. The shapes and lines seemed to flow in a way she had never noticed before. She rotated the paper, looked at it from different angles, and then suddenly, her eyes widened. She had seen it. The missing connection that completed the flow of energy across the pattern was there. Her heart raced with excitement. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "This is the answer." She picked up a fresh sheet of paper and began to redraw the pattern, carefully and deliberately. This time, every line, every shape, and every number fell into place. The pattern was no longer just a set of random shapes and connections. It was a living map of energy, a pathway that could guide the next generation of interstellar travel. Malik approached her quietly. "Nia, what are you working on?" he asked softly. "I think I have found the solution, Daddy," Nia said, her voice filled with wonder. "It is not like what the professors are doing. It is different, but it works. I can feel it," Malik nodded. "I believe you. Now we must be careful. This is important." "You need to show it in the right way," Nia agreed. She wanted the professors to understand, But she also knew they might not believe her at first. After all, she was only 12. Most adults could not imagine that a child could solve a problem they had spent years trying to understand. But Nia did not let doubt stop her. She carefully prepared her notebook, redrawing the pattern with precision and clarity. She added notes showing how energy flowed through each connection, explaining it in the simplest way she could. When she returned to the main hall, she approached Professor Laren, one of the senior mathematicians. He was deeply focused on his screen, frowning at the equation. Nia cleared her throat. "Professor Laren," she said politely, "I think I have found something that might help with the equation." The professor looked at her surprised. "A child? What could you possibly know about this problem?" he asked, trying to hide his curiosity. Nia opened her notebook and showed him the pattern. "I studied the shapes and connections," she explained. "I tried to imagine how energy would flow. I think this is the solution." Professor Laren looked at the drawings. At first he was skeptical. The lines and shapes did not match the equations he had been using. But as he studied the pattern, he noticed something remarkable. The connections made sense in a way he had never seen before. Energy could flow along these paths, forming a complete system. His eyes widened with disbelief. This is incredible," he whispered. "Where did you learn to do this?" Nia smiled. "I just tried to imagine it," she said. "I watched the patterns and thought about how energy could move." Professor Laren nodded slowly. He called over a few other professors. They crowded around Nia's notebook, studying the pattern and the notes she had written. Some of them were still skeptical, but others began to see the brilliance of her approach. "This is different," one professor said. "It is not the way we approach equations, but it works. The connections make sense." Nia felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She knew she had done something important, but she also realized that convincing the professors would not be easy. She explained her ideas clearly, showing how the energy flowed through the pattern and how it completed the equation. She used simple language, avoiding technical words when possible so that everyone could understand. Hours passed as the professors tested her pattern. They input the connections into their machines, comparing it to their previous attempts. Slowly, the machines confirmed what Nia had felt all along. The pattern worked. Energy flowed perfectly through the system, and the solution was correct. Professor Laren stood back, shaking his head in amazement. "I cannot believe it," he said. "No one, not even our brightest mathematicians, could solve this. And yet a child has found the solution." Nia blushed, feeling both proud and humble. She looked at her father, who was standing quietly in the corner, smiling with pride. Malik's eyes shone with tears. He knew this moment would change everything for his daughter. The news spread quickly through the academy. Professors and students alike gathered to see the child who had solved the unsolvable problem. Some were amazed, some were skeptical, but everyone could see the brilliance in Nia's work. The quantum energy equation, the challenge that had defeated the greatest minds on Earth, was finally solved. Nia did not stop to celebrate. She continued to study her pattern, refining it and exploring its possibilities. She wanted to understand everything about how energy could move through the system. She imagined the ships that could be powered by this energy, traveling to distant stars and new worlds. The thought filled her with wonder. Professor Laren approached her once more. "Nia, you have done something extraordinary," he said. "You have shown us that imagination and curiosity are just as important as knowledge. You have reminded us that human potential is limitless." Nia smiled softly. "Thank you, Professor. I only tried to imagine what energy could do. I never thought it would work." Malik hugged his daughter gently. "You have done more than imagine, Nia. You have shown the world that even the youngest minds can achieve greatness." The Academy celebrated Nia's discovery. Her pattern became the foundation for a new energy system that could power ships beyond Earth. Scientists began to study her method, learning to combine imagination with technical knowledge. Nia's approach changed the way humans thought about problems. They realized that solutions could come from anywhere, from anyone, regardless of age or status. Despite the excitement, Nia remained humble. She continued to experiment, learning more about energy, patterns, and the connections between shapes and numbers. She understood that this was only the beginning. There were more challenges ahead, more discoveries to be made, and more ways to help humanity reach the stars. As the sun set over the city, Nia sat by the window, watching the sky turn orange and pink. She thought about the worlds beyond Earth, about the ships that would one day travel there powered by her solution. She felt a sense of wonder and responsibility. Her mind had unlocked something extraordinary, but she knew that the future depended on continuing to explore, to imagine, and to believe in the power of human curiosity. Malik joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You have done something incredible, Nia," he said. "The world will remember this moment, but never forget. It is your curiosity and courage that made it possible. That is what truly matters." Nia nodded, feeling a warmth in her heart. She looked at her father and then at the sky. The stars seemed closer than ever, shining like tiny beacons of possibility. She knew that her journey had just begun and that one day, she might travel to those stars herself. In the quiet of the evening, in a city filled with light and knowledge, a 12-year-old girl had changed the course of human history. Her imagination, curiosity, and courage had solved a problem that no professor could crack. And as she sat by the window dreaming of the future, the world began to see the limitless potential of human thought. Nia smiled softly, knowing that her adventure was only starting. The quantum energy equation had been solved, but the universe was vast and full of mysteries, and she, a child with a love for patterns and curiosity, was ready to explore them all. The news of Nia's discovery spread quickly through the United Earth Science Academy. By the next morning, the lecture halls and laboratories were filled with whispers, curious looks, and questions. Everyone wanted to see the girl who had solved the quantum energy equation, the problem that had defeated the most brilliant minds in the world. Some professors were excited, some were skeptical, and a few were openly doubtful. They could not imagine how a 12-year-old child could achieve what they had not. Nia arrived at the academy with Malik. She carried her notebook carefully, filled with her patterns, diagrams, and explanations. Her heart beat faster as she walked through the crowded halls. Many people stared at her, some with disbelief, some with admiration. Nia kept her head high, trying not to feel nervous. She had worked hard, and she knew her discovery was real. Professor Laren approached her with a kind smile. "Nia," he said, "many people want to see your work today. Are you ready?" Nia nodded. "Yes, Professor. I want to show them what I found." The first group to see her was the senior council of the academy. These were the most respected scientists, the ones whose opinions shaped research and exploration across the world. They sat in a semicircle, waiting. Their faces were serious, some skeptical, others curious. Nia stepped forward and opened her notebook. "I have studied the quantum energy equation," she began in a clear voice. "I tried to see it differently, to imagine how energy moves through the connections. I drew patterns and shapes, and I think I found the solution." She showed them her diagrams. Lines, shapes, and numbers connected in ways no one had seen before. Energy flowed through the pattern like streams of light, complete and balanced. The room was quiet as the council members studied her work. "This is unusual," said one professor, adjusting his glasses. "It does not follow the methods we use." "How can a child know this?" Nia smiled softly. "I just tried to imagine it. I watched the connections and thought about how energy could move. I did not follow the usual rules, but I think it works," the council members whispered among themselves. Some were intrigued, some doubtful, and a few were impressed. Professor Laren stepped forward. "I have tested her work," he said firmly. "The pattern is correct. The energy flow matches the equation perfectly. Nia's approach is valid." One professor frowned. "We cannot ignore our years of study. How can we accept a solution from someone so young?" Malik stepped forward, gently placing a hand on Nia's shoulder. "Knowledge is not only in books and years of study," he said. "It is also in imagination, curiosity, and courage. My daughter has those qualities, and that is why she found the solution." Some members of the council nodded slowly, understanding his point. Others remained skeptical. They could not yet see past their expectations, which told them that a child could not possibly solve such a difficult problem. Nia took a deep breath and continued. "If you follow the pattern I drew, energy will flow in a complete path. I tested it in many ways. I believe it is correct and can help humanity." Professor Laren added, "We will conduct further tests, but the initial results confirm her solution. It is accurate and stable. The quantum energy equation has been solved." The room fell silent for a moment. Then, slowly, some of the council members began to nod, impressed. Others still hesitated, but even they could not deny the evidence in front of them. Nia's work was real. After the council meeting, the news spread to the rest of the academy. Students and professors crowded around Nia, asking questions, seeking explanations, and trying to understand her approach. Many were amazed, seeing the brilliance in a young girl who had observed, imagined, and tested where others had failed. Yet not everyone was supportive. A few senior professors openly criticized Nia, saying her work was unconventional and could not be trusted. They argued that her methods were unscientific, that a child's mind could not comprehend the complexity of the equation. Some even suggested that her discovery was a coincidence, that it could not be replicated. Nia listened quietly, feeling a mix of emotions. She was proud of what she had achieved, but she also knew that convincing the world would take more than words. She needed to demonstrate that her solution worked, that it was reliable and strong. Professor Laren stepped forward once more. "The best way to prove her work is through testing," he said. "We will build a model to simulate the energy flow according to her pattern. If it works, it will confirm that Nia's solution is correct." The professors began preparations for the experiment. Machines were calibrated, sensors were set up, and data streams were monitored. Nia watched closely, explaining how each connection should function and how energy would move through the system. Her confidence grew as she saw the patterns take shape in the real world. Hours later, the simulation began. Energy flowed through the system according to Nia's design. Sensors measured the flow, tracking every connection. At first, some parts moved slower than expected, but Nia quickly identified the adjustments needed. Her intuition guided the team, showing them the missing links. When the final results came in, the room erupted with astonishment. The energy flowed perfectly through the system, stable and balanced. Nia's solution had worked exactly as she had imagined. Even the most skeptical professors could not deny it. Professor Laren turned to Nia. "You have done something remarkable," he said. "You have not only solved the equation but also shown us that imagination and perspective are as important as knowledge. You have reminded us of the power of human potential." The Academy celebrated Nia's achievement. Her solution became the basis for new energy technology that could power ships to distant stars. Scientists and engineers studied her method, learning to combine creativity with technical skill. Nia's discovery changed the way humans approached problems, proving that solutions could come from anywhere, from anyone, regardless of age or status. Despite the recognition, Nia remained humble. She continued to study the pattern, exploring new possibilities and refining her understanding. She knew that this was only the beginning. There were more challenges ahead, more discoveries to be made, and more ways to help humanity. Malik watched his daughter with pride. He knew that Nia's journey had just begun, and that her curiosity and courage would lead her to even greater achievements. "You have done more than solve a problem," he said softly. "You have inspired the world." Nia smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. She thought about the future, about the stars and the new worlds waiting to be explored. The quantum energy equation had been solved, but humanity's journey was far from over. She knew that her imagination and determination would guide her through whatever challenges lay ahead. The Academy recognized her officially. She was given a small laboratory to continue her research, and professors from around the world came to learn from her methods. Nia's approach changed the culture of the Academy, encouraging creativity, curiosity, and collaboration. Students began to experiment more freely, exploring ideas without fear of failure. The atmosphere was filled with energy, inspiration, and possibility. Yet Nia remained grounded. She spent time with Malik, walking through the city, watching the stars, and dreaming of what humanity could achieve. She understood that recognition was not the goal. Understanding and discovery were what mattered most. Her heart remained focused on exploration, learning, and imagining the impossible. As the days passed, Nia's reputation grew. The world began to see that greatness could come from unexpected places, and that the human mind was capable of far more than anyone had imagined. Children, adults, and scientists alike were inspired by her courage, imagination, and determination. One evening, Malik and Nia sat on the balcony of their small home, looking at the stars. "You have changed the world, Nia," Malik said. "People will remember your discovery for generations." Nia smiled softly. I only tried to see things differently, Daddy. I wanted to understand how energy moves. I never thought it would become so important. Malik hugged her gently. That is what makes it extraordinary. You believed in yourself and that belief made a difference. Remember this feeling, Nia. The world needs people like you who see beyond what others expect. Nia nodded, feeling a sense of purpose and responsibility. She knew that her journey was far from over. There were more equations to solve, more mysteries to explore, and more ways to help humanity reach the stars. Her curiosity and courage had opened a door, and now it was up to her to step through and continue the adventure. In the quiet of the night, as the city slept and the stars shone brightly above, a 12-year-old girl had proven that human imagination, determination, and courage could achieve what even the greatest minds could not. Her discovery had faced resistance, skepticism, and doubt, but it had prevailed. Nia had shown the world that human potential was limitless, and that the next generation of thinkers could change the future in ways no one could imagine. And so, in a city filled with light and knowledge, Nia continued her work, guided by curiosity, imagination, and the belief that the universe held endless possibilities. She had earned recognition, but more importantly, she had discovered the power within herself and inspired humanity to dream bigger, reach farther, and believe in the strength of the human mind. The discovery of Nia's solution to the quantum energy equation became the most important event in the United Earth Science Academy's history. The news spread beyond the Academy, reaching the entire planet. Governments, corporations, and space agencies took notice. Everyone wanted to see how a 12-year-old girl had unlocked an energy source that could power interstellar travel. For centuries, humans had dreamed of reaching distant stars, but energy had always been the biggest barrier. Now, thanks to Nia, that barrier was gone. Nia continued her work in the Academy's lab. She studied the energy patterns she had discovered, refining and testing them. Engineers and scientists worked alongside her, learning from her methods. Nia's approach was different from traditional science. She relied on imagination, observation, and curiosity. She saw the flow of energy as something alive, not just numbers and equations. Her way of thinking inspired everyone around her. One morning, Malik arrived at the lab, carrying breakfast for Nia. "Good morning, Nia," he said. "Are you ready for another day of discovery?" Nia smiled. "Yes, Daddy. I want to see if we can make the energy move faster and reach further. If we can do that, we can power ships to distant stars." Malik nodded. "I am proud of you. You are not just solving equations. You are changing the future." Nia's work attracted attention from people around the world. Scientists and engineers came to the Academy to study her methods. They were amazed by her ability to see patterns and connections that no one else could. Some had years of experience in energy systems, yet Nia's simple drawings and imagination revealed insights they had never considered. The Academy decided to build a prototype ship powered by Nia's energy solution. The ship was small at first, designed to test the flow of energy and see if it could be controlled. Nia worked with the engineers, explaining how the energy should move and how to connect the power sources. Her confidence grew as she saw her patterns coming to life in a real machine. The day of the first test arrived. The lab was filled with scientists, engineers, and observers. Nia stood beside her father, holding her notebook tightly. The prototype ship rested on a launch platform, its design sleek and futuristic. Energy flowed through it, guided by the patterns Nia had drawn. Professor Laren spoke to the crowd. "Today, we witness the result of a young mind's imagination. Nia's solution has the potential to change humanity's place in the universe." Nia felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had studied and tested her solution countless times, but seeing it power a ship was something entirely different. She watched as the engineers activated the energy system. Light flowed through the ship, following the path she had imagined. The energy moved smoothly, stable, and strong. "Energy levels stable," one engineer announced. "All systems functioning within expected parameters." Nia's heart raced. She could see the ship glowing as the energy moved through it. Her patterns, her drawings, and her imagination were no longer just on paper. They were real, powering a machine that could one day carry humans to other stars. The launch sequence began. Slowly, the ship lifted off the platform, moving smoothly through the air. Everyone watched in awe as it hovered, powered by the energy Nia had discovered. The ship moved higher and higher, controlled and stable. Nia's solution had worked in the real world. Applause and cheers filled the lab. Scientists, engineers, and observers celebrated the success. Nia smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride and joy. She had not only solved an impossible equation, but had also helped humanity take its first real step toward the stars. Over the following months, Nia's energy solution was used to build larger ships, capable of carrying people and supplies. Space agencies around the world adopted her methods, and humans began to plan for exploration beyond the solar system. Nia worked tirelessly, refining her patterns, testing new designs, and imagining new possibilities. Her mind continued to see connections that others could not. Malik watched his daughter with pride. He knew that she had changed the course of history, but he also understood that she remained humble and focused. "You have given humanity a gift, Nia," he said one evening. "But remember, the real adventure is only beginning. There are more discoveries ahead." Nia nodded. "I know, Daddy. I want to see how far this energy can take us. I want to explore the stars and understand the universe." The world celebrated Nia's achievement. Children and adults alike were inspired by her story. People began to believe that imagination and curiosity were just as important as education and experience. Nia had shown that greatness could come from unexpected places, and that even the youngest minds could contribute to humanity's future. In schools, students were encouraged to experiment, imagine, and explore. Teachers used Nia's story to show that creativity and courage could unlock solutions no one had seen before. Scientists incorporated her methods into research, blending imagination with technical knowledge. The world was changing, and Nia's discovery was at the heart of that change. One day, Nia was invited to speak at a global science conference. The audience included leaders, scientists, and explorers from around the world. Nia stood on the stage, her notebook in hand, and spoke with clarity and confidence. "I solved the quantum energy equation, not because I am older or more educated," she said. "I solved it because I looked at it differently. I imagined how energy could flow, and I experimented until I understood the pattern. Curiosity and imagination are powerful tools. If we use them, we can reach new worlds and solve problems we once thought impossible." The audience erupted in applause. Nia's words inspired countless people. Her discovery was not only about energy or space travel, it was about human potential. She had shown that anyone, no matter their age, background, or status, could make a difference. In the following years, humanity began to explore new star systems, powered by the energy Nia had discovered. Ships traveled faster, farther, and more efficiently than ever before. Colonies were established on distant planets, and humans began to understand the vastness of the universe. Nia's solution had opened the door to a new era of exploration and discovery. Through it all, Nia remained humble. She continued to study, imagine, and experiment. She worked alongside engineers, scientists, and explorers, always learning and growing. She never forgot the lesson her father had taught her, that curiosity, courage, and imagination were the keys to understanding the world and shaping the future. Malik watched his daughter, proud beyond words. He knew that Nia's discovery had changed the world, but he also knew that her greatest gift was her belief in herself and her willingness to see things differently. "You have given humanity hope, Nia," he said softly. "And that is the most powerful gift of all." Nia smiled, looking up at the stars. "The universe is full of mysteries, Daddy. I want to explore them all and help humanity reach further than we ever imagined." And so, a 12-year-old girl, who loved patterns and puzzles, had changed the course of human history. She had solved a problem no professor could, inspired the world with her imagination, and opened the path to the stars. Humanity had triumphed not because of machines or technology alone, but because of curiosity, courage, and the power of a single human mind. As humanity looked to the stars, Nia continued her journey, guided by her imagination and determination. She knew there were more challenges ahead, more mysteries to solve, and more discoveries to make. But she also knew that humans, with their creativity and courage, could achieve anything. In the quiet of her room, overlooking the glowing city below and the stars above, Nia worked late into the night, drawing new patterns, imagining new possibilities, and dreaming of worlds yet to be discovered. She had proven that even the smallest mind could change the universe, and her story became a beacon of hope for generations to come. And so, the child who had solved the impossible equation helped humanity take its first real steps among the stars. The quantum energy equation, once a mystery, became the foundation for exploration, discovery, and the belief that humans could achieve the extraordinary. Nia's journey had begun with curiosity, grew through imagination, and culminated in triumph. She had reminded the world that human potential is limitless and that one spark of creativity can change the future forever. Humanity, inspired by her courage and brilliance, looked to the stars with hope, excitement, and determination. And at the center of it all, Nia continued to dream, explore, and imagine, proving that the human mind, no matter how young, is capable of reaching the impossible.